We are back on Morning Line. Thanks for joining us. Talking Animal Rescue Corps. Scotland Hazley, the front lines of animal rescues in the country. Yeah, you're nationwide, right? You'll go anywhere to rescue.
International.
Have you ever left the country?
We have. Yeah.
Mexico?
Canada.
Canada.
Quite a few in Canada, yes.
Really? So you'll go across borders.
Puppy mills are everywhere.
Yeah, that's the sad fact. It's good to have him on. Let's go to Jay, who's been waiting. Jay, good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure, Jay.
I just want to thank that gentleman, for all of his hard work. About 2 years ago, I found myself in a situation where I went down to my family farm and somebody had put 2 dogs in our barn, trespassed on our land and put 2 dogs in our barn. Unfortunately, one of them died, but the bloodhound survived. He had a broke leg, and we got him help, and my father took him in, and of course that's my dad's baby now. But I just wondered, have y'all done any background checks on a lot of these animal control officers? Because my mother, she went off on a officer for pulling this little dog. He wasn't hurting nobody. He's a friendly little fella, and he was pretty rough with him. And I just wondered if he's done any investigating on that. And I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
Thanks for your call.
Jay. Hey, Jay brings up a great topic. Well, not a great topic, but a good piece of conversation, which is training that animal control officers have or don't have. And quite honestly, we talked earlier about the reason why Animal Rescue Corps was designed is to be a resource to these communities that don't have animal control at all. Right. And then some rural communities that do have animal control have it on a limited budget. And
they don't have money to pay them.
They don't have money to pay. There's no training or limited training. So that's why Animal Rescue Corps created what's called BARC, Basic Animal Rescue Course.
Yep. All your volunteers have to go through that.
They do. And well, they don't have to get on the scene, but eventually we want them to go into our training. You can show up at our shelter today and we'll give you an hour-long orientation. To help there.
But to go in and do what you do when you go onto the property?
If you want to be part of the bigger picture, yes, you have to go through the Basic Animal Rescue Course.
Is that your curriculum? You came up with it? No, did you come up with it?
Yes, designed every aspect of it.
Based on all of your experience with what you've done?
Based on the fact that it didn't exist prior.
Okay.
There's
just
no
a template, yeah.
It really is. We needed a template just on how to handle a dog properly after you've captured him, or how you're going to capture him.
How do you? How do you? Does it depend on the condition? The cover of your book, take a look at that again, Mary. If you can throw the cover of his book up there, Compassion in Action. It shows you removing it looks like a Yorkie from just one of these cages. Now, is this the moment? I imagine these dogs are shell-shocked, many of them are very sick, frightened, and you're pulling it. What are you doing here?
She's never been handled before.
Never been touched.
She's been in this cage her entire life.
That's a sweet dog.
She was probably, I don't know, 3 or 4 years old. This cage, I don't know if you can see in this picture here, but the door is smaller than her body.
Yeah.
The door is big enough to put food and water in on occasion. They weren't designed to bring these animals out and let them get exercise or socialization. So she's lived here her entire life. So how do you handle a dog like this?
Yep.
With patience and compassion.
Right. Slowly. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to be timid. Some will bite, some won't. Some, what was her reaction when you took her out?
Rarely do we see them want to bite us. They're scared, but they get it, man. They get that something better is here.
I have talked to your volunteers when they've been out there, and my wife as well, and they talk about how when you finally go in and the animals initially are frightened, but they're smart, and they're looking at you like, thank God you're here. Yeah. Can you feel that when you go in sometimes? It's like as if a human was in some kind of concentration camp or something who's being rescued, and it's just thank goodness for being saved.
It's a tremendous feeling for us, obviously, to witness this. Oftentimes when we're first there, the animals are vacant, they're statues, they're done, they've given up, they succumb, they're ready to die. And now all of a sudden there's this sea of blue people out there taking them out of their cages, and they're confused. And as the day goes by, they start to get it because they're watching all of their friends leave, and they see that nothing bad's happened. In fact, this looks pretty good. So even on scene, it may be a situation where in the beginning they were all in the back of the cage, but by the end of the time we're getting our last dogs out, they're all coming to the front of the cages now. And then, of course, once they're at the emergency shelter reclaiming their lives, then yes, now they're demanding attention.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's what's so crazy.
Yeah.
That's when I've been able to see, and that's when the media sometimes will go see the shelter in Lebanon.
Yeah.
So you see the stages of it. It's amazing how quickly some tender, loving care can turn an animal around that's been locked in a cage by itself for 3 years. And I'm talking in a matter of days. Because it just shows that these animals are so pure and good to begin with.
And incredibly resilient. And what if we could be as resilient as
Yeah,
them?
they're so resilient. But you see them all of a sudden hide in the corner a day later. They're getting fed. They're getting attention. And
now they're like, where are you? Where's
Okay.
my food?
Yeah, and
I want my love. I want to be held. Yeah, it's
it's
awesome.
just a great thing to see. I wanted to go back to the essence of going onto the property and the very much important part of this in working with law enforcement. You can't get these tips and just show up at someone's house and say, I'm taking your pets, right?
Correct.
You have to go, you do your groundwork ahead of time. Hopefully you get cooperative law enforcement. You say you're running into more and more cooperative law enforcement to go out with you. You have a warrant in hand?
This is criminal seizure. I mean, this is the only way Animal Rescue Corps ever operates.
Could you go first and knock on the door first and say, ma'am, we understand you have a big problem here with the animals. We'd like to help. Would you let us? Do you ever do that first? And maybe they say, yeah, I'm overwhelmed. Yeah, sure. Or do you almost always go get a court order beforehand?
Always get a court order beforehand.
Okay.
The reason is we don't want them to have the upper hand. Then I'm negotiating with somebody who has the upper hand.
Oh, meaning like, well, they're the ones that can make the call. So once you get the court order, you go knock on the door and you're saying, we have a court order to seize your animals.
I don't do that. It's law enforcement's
sheriff
job.
will, or
I'm
the
certainly there, and I'm providing any support he or she needs. And it's usually, here's the court order. Would you like to cooperate? If they say yes, great. We don't necessarily have to serve the warrant, but either way, those animals are coming with us.
Okay.
And we don't leave them behind. We don't leave anybody behind.
You take them all, but at that point, if they choose not to cooperate, then you have a legal battle until it's freed. You've had cases. You have a case existing now where you can't adopt out or move these dogs anywhere else until this legal challenge is addressed, correct?
So in short, how we operate is we work under the authority of law enforcement. We seize the animals. We care for them until we're awarded custody. Now there's a couple ways we get awarded custody. One is at the end of the day on the seizure, I typically go to the person and acknowledge the depth of trouble that they're currently in, and that this is animal cruelty and they are going to be charged with animal cruelty. The best thing they could do at this point is cooperate.
Maybe help, the case,
and
right?
surrender the animals over to us, and oftentimes that happens. More than 50% of the time that happens. On other occasions, they don't want to cooperate. They want to fight us, and they have their day in court. They're allowed to have their day in court, and that means I will continue to house and care for these animals until we're awarded custody. On this, we have a current case, Operation Tennessee Waltz Part 1. The woman chose not to surrender the animals, so we've been caring for them for nearly 3 weeks now. She had until yesterday to pay what's called a security bond. There's law in the state of Tennessee that if your animals are seized, you can contest that, but you have to pay for their care. And as you know, the care is very expensive, and we always absorb that expense. But she has not paid for the care, and hopefully by the end of the day today I will have a court order saying those animals are mine, and then we can transport them on to the next leg of their new life.
I know how you are a stickler on scene. You follow the rule of law, and very, very, very professional. Have you ever had a case where you've lost in court and they've gotten the animals returned?
I have not lost a case that I've led. We've certainly had cases that we supported local law enforcement, and perhaps they didn't do something right, or something wasn't strong enough in their favor, and they've been ordered to return animals. But Animal Rescue Corps, running a case from A to Z, has not lost a case.
Not lost a case. Let's go to Brian. Hi, Brian. Are you there, Brian? Let's see, Brian? All right, let's go to Bob. Hey, Bob, good morning.
Oh, good morning. It's a good program. Bless y'all for getting it on the show going like that. I've got two things I want to thank the Animal Rescue Corps for, and I appreciate it.
Thanks, Bob.
If I can do that.
Sure.
Okay. One was to help change laws. It was a couple decades ago right down from my church, these, I don't want to get ethnic or racist or anything, they would adopt the animals and they'd end up in the back of the restaurant.
You wonder, did you ever encounter anything like that? I don't know. I mean, maybe he's talking about people who get animals, I don't know, chickens, and they eat them and stuff. I mean, there's rules and laws, but a lot of that stuff's legal, is it not?
What exactly?
Well, if you're farming chickens, if you have chickens, I mean, you're going to eat their eggs, maybe. Not that you would, but what type of animal cruelty? Have you had instances where you've been in situations where maybe animals, under certain circumstances, are being slaughtered for food that you've been involved with?
Sure. I've investigated 26 years. I've been doing this, just over 26 years. I did it as we discussed earlier in our nation's capital.
Yeah.
I headed the Manhattan shelter in New York City. I oversaw humane law enforcement in the San Francisco Bay Area, the Peninsula Humane Society. I've been to India. I've been to Ponce, Puerto Rico doing this work. I've had the opportunity to experience a great deal of different types of cases, and natural disasters as well. As you know, I did, led rescue efforts during Hurricane Katrina. But yes, I've investigated quite a few slaughterhouses. I've investigated restaurants that were. There was a case I had years ago in D.C. where they were trapping a Chinese restaurant was trapping feral cats in the back alley.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And all right, well, that's what he's going at. Earlier, by the way, you talked about how they have to pay if they want to get the animals back at some point. What is it, a deposit, or what did you say this woman has to pay? That
Security deposit.
Security. The cost and care, and I've seen these shelters and it's set up. I want to give you a chance to talk about some of your biggest donors. I know PetSmart's one, right? They deserve it, and they don't get, sometimes it's not out there, but the donations you get from some of these corporations that really help you go along with a lot of private donors and volunteers. But I mean, who helps you the most?
Our work takes a village.
Okay.
Right? It's not just, you see me on the scene talking to the camera about the good work that we're doing, but I'm just the spokesperson there. I mean, we've got, every level matters. We've got, volunteers out in both the emergency shelter and on scene with us. We've got veterinarians, vet techs, groomers, local business owners, local restaurants that provide food for the volunteers.
Oh yeah, they'll bring stuff out.
We have PetSmart Charities contributes the necessary equipment, cages.
Oh yeah, and that's expensive
food.
Stuff. Yeah.
And then, of course, we have friends at the Bissell Pet Foundation and other foundations that provide us some seed money to do some of these cases. I mean, it costs, these past 4 rescues that we've just done, 1 in Mississippi and 3 in Tennessee, last tally was $55,000 is what it was costing us, and that was a couple weeks ago. So we're probably at $60,000 to $65,000 for these 4 cases. That's a lot of money. And just to get our boots on the ground, to get our equipment, to get our trucks, to get our people, to get people set up in hotels, you're talking roughly $5,000 to $10,000 just to get to a community to do a rescue operation. So groups like the Bissell Pet Foundation, that's where they come in. They're very helpful. They'll contribute that seed money to get our boots on the ground, and then from there we do fundraising online.
Okay, you do fundraising so people can donate. They can, your website is it
animalrescuecorps.org.
And you're a nonprofit.
We're a nonprofit, and we're not a rich organization. We essentially.
How many really paid staffers are there, if there are paid? I mean, you this is your full-time gig, right?
There are 3 paid staff members and 2 contractors, and everybody else is a volunteer.
It's a volunteer, and it's an army of volunteers.
And that's on purpose.
Yeah.
That's on purpose. It always will be.
Well, the other thing about you as someone who was the founder of this, a lot of the folks who get involved with some of the animal rescues and cares, it's such a passion for them, and they're so focused on, as they should be, the animals first and foremost. I'll be frank here, many of them, and they're wonderful people, are not savvy enough to recognize the value of media. And I will give you credit on this front. Maybe it's because of your time in D.C. You certainly understand the value of doing shows like this, or you also, when you go on these rescues, you have your own crew. Sometimes freelance photographers and videographers documenting and then provide that to the media, and it's a very compelling video. We showed you some stills earlier, right?
You know, my priority is twofold. It's, yes, to get there on scene and save the lives of those animals, to
Right.
reach into those cages and make them the promise that their suffering has ended. That is our priority. But equally, it is our priority to educate and inspire.
Right.
And it would be a shame not to have a videographer and a photographer on these scenes showing people the realities of these puppy mills, because otherwise that footage is hard to come by. I mean, there are a few other organizations that do this type of work, but we're doing it constantly, and we need to be showing people, because showing people changes hearts and minds. That's the best way to educate somebody.
Oh, yeah.
You don't tell somebody how to change their lives, you show them.
Absolutely. And these pictures, if that doesn't get to your heart, I don't know what does. Listen, we'll take a break. When we come back, our final segment, more of your calls as we wrap things up with Scotland Hazley and ARC. Stay with us.